Okay, what I would like to run you through in this short video is how to put together what's called the action plan. This is one of the assessment task types that you need to complete in both Year 11 and Year 12 Food and Hospitality. So I'm going to use the Stage 2 assessment task as the example for this one. And for this first task, Year 11s, I'm going to get you to do exactly what I'm asking the Year 12s to do. So we're working through our Teams page where I have been into the workbook and I have opened up the assessment task for the Student Leaders Induction Assembly Morning Tea, and this is the student task sheet that you are then presented with. You'll notice that it's got a couple of different parts to it. It tells you the area of study that we're looking at, which is political and legal influences, in particular impact of food legislation relating to food safety, and HACCP in particular is a focus. Tells you that the work requirements for this task, there's an individual problem solving piece, which is the 500-word action plan, the practical application, which most of you have already undertaken, the student practical evidence sheet, which is your record of what you have done, and an individual evaluation, which we will talk about in future as well. The purpose of this task, there's a few dot points here, things that you need to actually cover within the task itself, and there's a description of what each of these pieces here is. The problem solving or the action plan is a 500-word or equivalent piece, so approximately 1 page. You've done the practical, and the evaluation, as I said, will come later. There's some information there with regards to assessment conditions, and as it says, it can be a 500-word written piece, or it could be a 3-minute oral presentation or equivalent in multimodal form if you decide to do something like a PowerPoint. The performance standards that we are looking at for this task, your practical assessment is these two here. Productive implementation of appropriate techniques, generation and maintenance of quality control, and sustained and thorough application of safe food handling and management practices. The evaluation you don't need to worry about until we get to that point in the task, but the ones for the action plan are over here in the problem solving column. So we've got 3 things that we need to do. We need to identify and discuss factors that are involved in problem solving related to the food and hospitality industry. We need to make well-informed decisions about the problems that we've identified and our implementation strategies, and we need to very clearly justify the decisions that we've made and our implementation strategies. So they are the 3 components of the action plan, if you like. Okay? To put an action plan together, you need to have a good look at the task sheet, and I suggest you do that with a highlighter in hand. And the first thing that you do is look at what is it that you are actually being asked to do. So the first thing you are being asked to do here is to investigate, develop knowledge and implement all aspects of food safety and hygiene as related to the food and hospitality industry. So things that you are going to want to highlight are the points that are important and what you are being asked to do within the task. You're being asked to apply problem-solving skills that demonstrate an understanding of political and legal influences as related to food safety and hygiene legislation, focusing on the HACCP program. So again, I'm going to highlight that one. You are being asked specifically about hazard analysis and critical control points. You are being asked to work individually to produce menu items which incorporate high-risk ingredients and that are suitable for a morning tea service. You will then individually evaluate your practical and show understanding of political and legal influences. Looking down here further, you're developing an action plan where you identify and discuss food safety and hygiene issues. So I'm going to highlight that as well. Make and state your decisions with justification about what you intend to produce for the practical, and identify the implementation requirements. Implementation requirements are just about how you're going to get the food from the kitchen, from when you have cooked, to the actual service that we're doing, and ensuring that that food remains safe and hygienic in doing so, and you're going to be using the HACCP program to allow you to do that. Okay, so from those few points, you need to develop what's called an action plan. So in a program such as Word, your action plan has 3 major components to it. Your first is the identification of the and I've gone blank. Identification of the issues around the task. We then need a menu decision. It's actually 4 pieces, sorry. We then need a discussion of this. And a justification of your menu decision. And the last thing that we need is your implementation planning. So, what does this actually mean? Don't waste your 500 words in retelling me what the task is. I already know that this is the induction assembly morning tea. That will do. You can include your SACE number. So that I can identify who you are. So Nicole Marie Cross, and there's my SACE number. Use your initials, not your name, please, so that I can identify whose this actually is. These then become your 4 subheadings within your action plan. So identification of the issues around the task, and this is simply a listing of dot points. So let's include some bullet points, and thinking back to the task, what was it that you were actually asked to do? You were asked to cater for a morning tea. So the foods that you produce must be suitable for the morning tea audience. And then you need to consider, well, who actually is that? Are you cooking for young children? Are you cooking for older people? Are you cooking for a sit-down meal where there is cutlery available? Are you cooking for people who are going to be standing around chatting and possibly just have a serviette to hold their food in? So what are some of the issues and things that you need to consider when you are making your menu decisions based upon that piece of information that you got from the action plan? The next thing is that you need to implement the use of HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point program to ensure food safety for the event. We've done a little bit, very briefly, about what hazard analysis and critical control points is and how it's implemented, but there will be more on that when we have a theory lesson on Friday afternoon. Basically, it's a program where you identify what are the critical points within the task itself and how do you minimize those risks. The other one is that you need to incorporate a high-risk food item. Now, I haven't made this too much of an issue with Year 11s, but for Year 12s, you are certainly going to have to be able to identify within your recipe what that high-risk food item is. So the what, the why, the how you deal with it, etc., etc. There might be more than just those 3, but that's a starting point: the what, the why, and the how. Okay, so incorporate a high-risk food item within your dish and show how the risks have been managed. Working individually was another specification within the task. Individually, but contribute to the overall group event. So So for year 11s, where you're not talking about so much a high risk food item, because you might not have chosen a high risk food item within your recipe, you might be focusing more on this particular issue for yours. So your menu decision, you then put in your decision, what it was you chose to make. So chicken sausage rolls. And it doesn't need to have very much with regards to description of it, because you will have photographs and all the rest of it within your student prac evidence sheet. I just need to know what the dish was that you chose. Okay. What you now need to do under the discussion of issues and justification is you need to join this decision with these issues. So each of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, you could have numbered them if you wanted to, but dot points is fine. Each of these now needs to be expanded on with regards to how this particular menu decision impacted upon it or helped support what you needed to do. So in catering for a morning tea, the foods that are produced must be suitable for the morning tea audience. How do your chicken sausage rolls support that particular point? So the chicken sausage rolls that I chose for this event are suitable for a morning tea because, and you then go into your justification, and this is about things like the sizing of the food item and how you are making sure it is of a consistent size and suitable for someone who's standing around talking. You talk about things like the fact that the food is going to have to be made ahead of time and frozen, and how that impacted upon your choice of recipe and why the recipe that you have chosen is suitable for that. You might talk about the ingredients that you've included. So I've decided to make chicken sausage rolls knowing that there were 3 other beef dishes that were chosen within the class, and I didn't want everything to be, of a similar flavour profile. You might talk about the fact that you chose to make chicken sausage rolls because you can incorporate more vegetables in those, and for the children that are attending the morning tea, that's an important dietary concern. So you give your justification with regards to your menu choice relating to that first dot point. That's your first paragraph. That's paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, the need to implement the use of the HACCP program to ensure food safety for the event. So paragraph 2 needs to link your chicken sausage rolls with that particular point. So the chicken sausage rolls are a high risk food item. Now this could, and as you can see here, I'm talking about a high risk food item being the 3rd dot point here. I could be talking about both of these together. I'm going to try not to, but there is going to be some overlap there. So the chicken sausage rolls are a high risk food item and will require me to consider the following critical control points within my practical. The chicken mince itself being high risk for the food-borne bacteria Salmonella will only be removed from the fridge at the last minute, ensuring that it remains out of the temperature danger zone for the maximum possible time. I will ensure this by the use of a food safety plan and work plan that details the order in which practical tasks are undertaken, so that my chicken is not sitting on the workbench unnecessarily. Yeah, I can't spell. Anyway, so you then detail all of the things that need to be considered, and for the HACCP program, as I said, we'll get into more detail again on Friday, but that's an example of one thing that you might have included within that. Your high risk food item, this is where you would actually talk more about the foodborne bacteria, Salmonella, and it's where you can then use other websites referencing and demonstrate your understanding of why Salmonella is an issue. So Salmonella is common in chicken items. This recipe is of particular risk due to the mincemeat being used because, and then you detail your information. The ways in which Salmonella can be minimised include, and detail what you will do. Reference your information and where you got it from, if that's what you decide to incorporate, etc., etc. You could go on to do a fourth paragraph about working individually and contributing to the overall event, so how your choice of recipe supported the choices of the rest of the class, making sure that we didn't have 5 chicken dishes and nothing else, or everyone was doing something chocolate based, that kind of thing. Okay. Implementation planning is about things such as the timing, issues with access to kitchens, and for a lot of you this is things like the fact that you might be out one day a week for something, that you've got open access classes, that you've got vet courses, that we're always cooking in the afternoon when it's quite hot within the room, that Miss Cross didn't actually order the correct ingredients, although that's not so much an issue here, that's more of the evaluation. Implementation planning would include getting in your food orders and recipes according to the teacher timeline, and anything else which is required to be thought about to enable you to prepare what you need in the time that you have available using the resources and things that we have available. So that one relates to that performance standards about management of time, resources, etc., etc. as well. Okay. That doesn't need to be in massive amounts of detail. It could be a couple of sentences. You could use dot points again, going over 3 or 4 different things if that's how you wish to do it. Entirely up to you. You will find examples of student action plans within our Teams page. If you go back into the general channel, have a look for the files, go into class materials from last year, and within the tasks you should find both reference materials, which will include some information about various newspaper articles of things that have happened because food safety hasn't been considered. You'll find an exemplar of a food safety plan, so you can have a look at that. There is some information on food safety and high risk foods, which will detail the different types of bacterias and how they are found within various food items. You will find within the action plan folder there, you'll find an example, you'll find a template, and there's a few more little resources that you can have a look there as well. Hopefully that's enough to get you started on writing this action plan while I'm working with other students when necessary. So again, in the classwork is where you will find the induction assembly food safety focus information for the assessment task. In the general is where you will find the files with information from previous years. Okay, hopefully that should be enough to get you started. Alright, thanks very much and good luck. See ya.